Hey everyone, we're live again. So we're back at it. I'm Sean Christopher Jenkins. This is my guy, my mentor, my friend, my brother in Christ, Terry J. Phillips. We're back on both of our platforms, streaming live. We're on Vessels of Victory, his platform. So you're streaming on Facebook, right? And on YouTube?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And his Facebook page, Terry J. Phillips. And then we're streaming on my YouTube page, Uplift past Crossroads. That's also my podcast platform. Streaming on my Facebook page, Sean Christopher Jenkins, and a few of my other pages, like my Twitter page, troubledontlast. I got a lot of pages. But anyways, let's get to it. So we got a lot of videos coming out for you guys. We're going to be hitting on topics that are hitting home with people, like that's really relevant to all of us. And today, Terry asked a good question while we were talking, and we're going to answer the question for you guys. And it's going to pertain to, we're going to pull out a lot of things when we're talking about it. But the question is this, and you guys can answer it in chat if you want. I'm going to put it up on the screen too. But, and you can, yeah, here goes the question. So, how does racism affect people in our community? Or how does racism impact your community? Right. And so, with that question, I want you guys to really think about it, because there's no one definitive right answer, because it affects communities in different ways. Because for a black person, racism means something different than for a white person, or for Indian person, or for a Chinese
Mhm.
person. Like, everybody's social context is slightly different, but sort of the same too, right? So with this question, it's really a profound question, and we're gonna dissect it. So how does racism affect your community? So, all right, Terry, you want to go ahead?
Yeah.
You can
Well,
talk first.
as we were talking about this topic earlier, we see a lot of what's going on in the world today, and I'm very concerned. But I also know that it's biblical and what the things that we're seeing these days. But I'm very concerned over. I feel this is what I feel like. I feel like society is being sold fool's gold. And I feel like society is so caught up in politics, religion, and their personal interests, and that they're allowing that to sell them fool's gold, because everything that's going on in the world right now is focusing on uh, religious differences and racism. And there's a lot of stuff going on that I would like to just clear up as far as what we identify as being racism, and asking the question, is it really racism? And number two, the second thing I really want to talk about is how that mindset affects our lives and our communities. And, there's two sides of all this. It's the side that feels like they're being discriminated against, and the ones that feel like, that they're being discriminated against. Both sides feel the same thing. And I really believe that it's a tactic not only of the devil and the enemy to bring division, because a kingdom divided against itself will fall, but I also feel like that it is a distraction that is being put out by various people, whether it's in politics or leadership, or and whatever the ability or the office is, and using that as a way to get us distracted on other things than what really we should be focusing on. Because I believe that we as people have more in common than we do, and that's different. And I was telling you earlier, because anyone that knows me knows that I'm not a racist, but I tend to, my mindset's different. I just see people as people. I don't identify him as, oh, well, that's a black guy and that's a white. I see Sean Jenkins as Sean Jenkins. And then if I put any thought into it, I go, well, yeah, Sean Jenkins is a person of color. Look, it's stupid. The whole mentality is stupid. What we really need to be focusing on is how we're going to fix our communities, how we're going to fix our own personal lives, and what we're going to do as far as our relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, I am very vocal about my faith, and I'm very vocal about what I believe in, and I'm very vocal about speaking out against falsehoods and speaking out against false religions. And I frankly don't care who's watching this, and really care, and whether you like me or not, I don't care. Because at night, when I rest my head on my pillow, I want to make sure that he's pleased with me. I really don't care what you think about me. Because at the end of the day, we have to be accountable for what we say and what we do and the choices that we make. Okay. So we have to be accountable to God at the end of the day. And if I love you enough, if I love people enough, I'm not going to worry about what they think, but I'm going to worry about the condition of their souls or the condition of their life. I don't want to just talk about spiritual stuff. I want to talk about, you know, how the natural affects the spiritual and how the spiritual affects the natural. And I just believe that a lot of people out there, we're being so fools though. We are so off track and focus that it's horrible to watch it every day go by. So many people aren't getting, you know, what they want, and the first thing they want to do is cry racism. And I'm just so over it, because none of us were slaves, none of us were slave owners. So we'll just leave that right there. And number two, I feel like, we need to be focusing on the commonalities that we have and the things that we can do together to make our communities not only better, but more united,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So, I guess, Sean, what's your thought on it? Because I know that we were talking a little bit earlier, and I was telling you how I feel like it relates with politics. And because anyone that knows me knows I'm a big politic guy. I love politics. I follow politics every day. But and I don't want to mention the T word on here, because if you mention the T word on here, you're automatically going to be hated, which, frankly, like I said, I don't care what people think about me, but there's a part of me that wants to be part of the community to help better it and not be more of a hindrance of what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Like just this question alone, man, it can cause division. So like, the question of the day, guys, is how racism impacts your community, or how does racism affect people in your community? And racism, like what is racism? Like, it's when you discriminate against people for their skin color. And it's probably not even just limited to that. It's just discrimination. Like, you could discriminate people by their body size, body shape, discriminate people because they got a handicap, and I wouldn't call that being racist, it's just discrimination, right? And so, like, how does it affect your community though? It could affect it in a multitude of ways, right? It can affect it by employment opportunities, like so social standing, social hierarchy, right? It could affect it by I'm trying to think of all of it's a multitude of ways, because like racism is intertwined kind of in a lot of ways, in a lot of structures, in a lot of institutions. It's just how life was operated back in the day. And it's so intertwined that it's still relevant today, right? Because I was talking with Terry, like, why is there still a color line? Why are we still defining people by race? Why is this such an important topic, right? If it don't matter. Because if it didn't matter, we wouldn't bring it up. And if it didn't matter, then we wouldn't, categorize people and, rank people by their race, which some people do, right? And I tell you, it's a good question to ask. Like, some white people I've talked to, they said like, racism don't exist. Like, maybe not to them, right? But like, does it exist at all? Like, is it a reality for some people, or in general, right? So like, just avoiding that conversation and not taking account of not I don't want to say taking accountability or ownership, but not seeing the reality for what it is, like what's being thrown at us. Because Terry even said it, like politically, they bring up racism all the time. Like it's something that they use in politics and in media in sports, they use it with everything. Like racism is like it's something that causes division. It's a social construct, right? Made by humans. Like nowhere in the Bible do you see God define people by race. God looks at the heart. He don't look at appearance. He don't care how you look. It says in the book of Revelations that all the nations are going to bow down before God. So like color, are you kidding me? Like we make a big deal about color. We make a big deal about, you look this way, I don't like you, or I don't want anything to do with you because you're from them, right? It can go. This is controversial, but it can go with immigrants too. Like like just anybody. Like if you don't look like me, talk like me, or look like how I want you to look, it can impact not just you, but or the person that you're discriminated against, but it can impact everybody else in a negative light. So, like, it's so much negativity that comes out with it, and it's a loaded question, Terry. Like, I'm not even done answering it. Like, how does racism impact your community? Go ahead.
I really want to say that it identifies with a mindset, and as Christians, I mean, as Christians, we're becoming the most persecuted religion on the planet. We just saw a pioneer for the Christian faith murdered a few months back for his faith. They called it racism. They called it fascism. They called it discrimination. They called it every name you could think of. And he happened to have a higher IQ than a lot of people, knew the word better than most people, and was able to put it out there where people couldn't dispute it, and they hated him for it. And they're going to hate us the same way. I was put a post on there the other day that, it's coming a time that Christianity is going to be unpopular and could cost you your life. And I told that thought to a friend of mine. He goes, "Oh, well, that's years ahead. We're never going to see that." And I said, "You may be closer than you think." And we may be seeing it now. But, I want to tie this off because, of course, if you're watching this, we want to talk about questions and things that impact the community, things that can help us become better at, every part of our life. But I want to tie this off with some scripture because I was talking about earlier that I feel like we're being sold fool's gold, and that, we're being told falsehoods that create a mindset in us that make it very hard to break cycles in our life. And, and I like what Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 10. He said, "I beseech you, brethren, that you might not be bold when I am present with that confidence wherewith I think to be bold against some which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh." So there's a fleshly mindset. There's a mindset of the flesh. There's a mindset that if, you've been around people that when all hell's breaking loose, they just fall apart and their emotions take over, and they're not sure what to do from one minute to the next, and they're crazy. And I believe that we can put a lot of emphasis and influence into the way that we think to the point where it affects our behaviors. And it says right here, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh." I'm going to read this all the way out because I want you to see the point. "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when you're fulfilled." Here it is, verse 7. "Do you look on things after the outward appearance? If any man trust to himself that he is Christ, let him of himself think it's this again, that as he is Christ, even so we are Christ." And I also want to chime in real quick and let people know that you can chime in on this conversation if you have some thoughts on this by going to the stream and just typing in on your comments there in the stream, and it will show up on our end and we will be able to respond. So if you have any input or any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to chime in on this stream. But back to the point I was making is, who are you looking at? What are you looking at? Are you looking at the outward appearance, or are you looking at the person with a heart of love and Christianity, where you're saying, "Hey, I don't see it." I know that we have cultural differences. We have ways of handling things that might be different than each other, but it doesn't make us different than each other. Okay. And God doesn't see us as any different than each other. And I think that, but I also fully understand that in today's day and times, people just don't want God, Sean. They don't want God. They are content with being racist. They are content with being victims. They are content with the victim mentality. They're content with being about themselves, being centered on themselves. "Oh, woe was me. If you don't give me what I want." I mean, I've never seen a greater generation of people with entitlement issues than I've seen in this generation right here. It just boggles my mind. the entitlement that people have, that I'm entitled to this and I'm entitled to that. And this new generation that has been told that they don't have to work, they don't have to earn a living, they need to become dependent on the government. I mean, where's the government get the money if people ain't putting, money in, they're not putting money in on it. And I believe that that's a mentality, Sean. And I believe that when we change this changes and our life changes. We got to change this. We got to change the way we see things and the way that we respond. And I'll tell you the truth, Sean. I mean, where I came from, my background, all the stuff I went through, and I had just as much opportunity as any person of color did in my classes. They had as much opportunity as I did. But I'll tell you what, nothing's been given to me. Nothing's been given to me. I've had to earn and kick and scream and fight for everything I got. The thing that's been given to me is opportunity. And I took the opportunity, made the most of it, and did the best that I could with it to try to benefit myself and to try to make my life better. I don't like people to identify me as being just a white guy, because I believe there's a stigma that's attached to that none of us should even have. We shouldn't have any stigmas attached to who we are. You know what I'm saying? I want to be seen as a white man that loves people, that accepts people. But I'm not going to accept nonsense. And, there's a lot of this stuff going on with we're being invaded by people that are of the Muslim faith in this country. And their goal is completely out in the open. We are here to take over your country, and we're here to take over every house. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen where these people are boldly declaring that we will enter every home. You won't enter mine, I promise you that. And I know a lot of other people's houses, you're not going to enter in theirs either.
Yeah.
So, but with that being said, though, there are all these things that are attacking us every single day that we're trying to have to sort through and figure out how we're going to respond to it. You know what I'm saying? I've had to use a lot of restraint and a lot of things that I really want to say, but I can't, and it's just understanding that we got to change this, and we got to change how, because we're always going to have these issues. They're always going to be here. They're not going anywhere. Racism's always going to be here. It's always going to, because it's a spirit. And that spirit's is being allowed to run rampant in this earth right now. And until we get smart and understand that we're not in a war with each other, we are in a spiritual war with evil. We got to work on changing this. Our weapons, we're not in a carnal war. We're not. Eventually, without changing this, we will be in a carnal war.
Yeah.
So,
I want to go back to your question, like, because just the question and the answers that we have to it, like, it's a worldly mindset. Like, how does racism affect your community? How does racism impact your community?
yeah.
Like, racism is a spiritual stronghold.
Yes, this is
Racism is a stronghold, a social construct that isn't going away. It's not going anywhere. It's always going to be here to stay. Just like the Bible said, the poor will always be with you. Like, it's just certain evils in this world that will always run rampant. And like, what's the solution? Like, you say you have the solution, but if we had the solution, it would have been solved already.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's something like we always got to fight against. Like it's like, I don't even want to say racism. Let's say discrimination. Like, there's always gonna be people on the earth that you just can't stand, that you just don't like, and you don't want anything to do with. And everybody, and what's funny is, like, some people say, like, I don't have that, but you okay, that's too honest, but like, certain people just avoid certain type of people. Like, you don't want to have anything to do with them if you're completely honest. And sometimes you gotta be put in that situation to know, like, I'm one of those people. Like, certain people just don't like being around all black people. Like, it's uncomfortable to them when they're around all black people. Like, because just so much fear. And I'm not even gonna say fear. It's just so much stigmas and stuff in your mind that you've been taught and trained, like propaganda, brainwashing has taught you to fear these type of people, right? Motorcycle people, like, because Terry rides motorcycles. Like, there's just a certain mindset that you have been trained and programmed to believe that this is what these type of people are. And it's not until you renew your mind And it's a constant thing you have to do, because the question is, what have you been fed all your life? What have you been taught all your life? Right? Who has told you to hate these type of people? Who has told you to love these type of people? Like, you know what I mean? And so and it's a lot, right? It's like nothing. You can't say on this earth that everything you were taught was right. And you can't say everything you were taught to believe is from God. And I want to go back to this verse. Like, I like how Terry brought this up, because if you look at the context of 2 Corinthians 10, like, Paul is dealing with the Corinth church that he started, right? And there's certain Corinthians that have came into the church that has wreaked havoc and started sowing trouble and discord. And they're telling the people in the Corinth church while Paul's away, saying that this guy ain't even truly called by God. They say, look at the way he looks, look at the way he talks. Like, he's not, every time Paul starts a letter in 2 Corinthians, or I think just throughout all his epistles, he starts off like saying, like, quotation marks. He said that, some of you guys are saying I'm timid, when face to face with you. Like, I'm shy when I'm face to face with you. So, like, I act like I get nervous around you guys or something like that. But when I'm away from you guys, then I got a mouth. My bark's way worse. No, my bark's way worse than my bite, when I'm further away than, face to face with you. That's what some of you guys are saying about me. And so they were trying to deny his apostleship, saying he ain't truly a child of God, ain't truly an apostle. Like, this is what a preacher really looks like. This is who we should be following. It is all based on appearance. And Paul was like, man, we don't fight. He said, I'm not even going to talk to you guys the way you want me to talk to you guys. He said, I ain't even going to bother fighting this kind of fight the way you want me to fight it. He said, I'm going to fight it spiritually. So however racism affects you and your community, you don't fight it like the world fights it, like through politics, debating, fighting all the daggone time. Who's right, who's wrong? Like, Terry, something else we ain't say. Like, we live in a debate world. Like, everybody wants to have a debate. Like, if you read the Bible, it's like one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. Well, one of my favorite passages is 2 Timothy 2, verse 23 to 24. It says, stay away from stupid and senseless and pointless arguments, for they only lead to trouble. And it finishes off saying, and the Lord's children must not be troublemakers. And like in the book of Proverbs, it says, like, stay away. It says like a soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words only stirs up trouble. Like, there's just certain conversations you can't have with people. And matter of fact, I'll even go further. You can't have a conversation with everybody about everything, because, like, you're gonna come to a fork in the road where you have to compromise, and you have to, like, see, you have to agree to disagree. And, like, this is what Paul is saying, like, but he's going even further than that. He ain't just saying that. He says, for though we live in the world, we do not wage war in the world as the world does. And what does the world want to do? They wage war trying to see who's right, who's wrong. They try to wage wars trying to, who's more powerful, like, who's more profound, like, who looks better. Like, what are we talking about? We don't fight battles like that. Like, and then he says in verse 4, the weapons we fight are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have so much power. They come from God. They're divinely powerful, and they demolish strongholds. The stronghold we're trying to demolish is racism. The reason why the civil rights movement worked was because of nonviolence. Like, hands down. It was something showing love and meekness and mercy and gentleness, like Paul started off saying in the very first verse of this passage. So, killing people with kindness, essentially, right? Who were being harsh towards them. That's how you beat a stronghold. Showing love when love wasn't supposed to be shown. That's what Jesus did on the cross. He showed mercy and grace and died for people who should have died for themselves. That's how you beat a stronghold, right? So, like, if we want to conquer this warfare that's going on, which is what? How does racism impact your community? The question to ask is, how are you impacting it? How are you stirring up the fire? Are you making it worse than what it is? Like, are you adding to the trouble that's already going on in this world? So, like, I'm using an example. Like, there's some things, Terry, I know I said some things that offended. That I wouldn't say offend you, but you just didn't agree with, because you could see, like, kind of where my political views are coming from. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. Like, obviously, me and Terry's political views kind of differ. It ain't really the exact same, but we can find, like, a line to meet. to still love each other and work together, right? So like just because I don't agree with you 100%, I'm gonna cut you off. Like that's the type of world we live in. That's not
Yeah.
how we war. Like
Yeah.
okay, I'm done talking. Terry, I'll let you go. I know you got something to say. Like,
No,
but
I think you're right on target. It's a stronghold, and however that stronghold was developed, it doesn't change the fact that it's a stronghold. And the
yeah,
best way to uh, get out of a stronghold is to first understand that first of all you have one,
mm-hmm,
and repent
right,
and turn away from it. Get a mindset difference. Learn, focus on the things that are more common than there are different.
mm-hmm,
The difference in our skin color, difference in our cultures, but I think it's pretty bad that we're getting to the point where, that we're so concentrating on that we're missing all the good stuff.
yeah,
And that's what our world's turning into. And, like I said earlier, a lot of people just don't want God. They don't want God. I mean, if you really want God, then you're gonna reflect that. But people don't want God. They don't. And then there's some who are sold out. I mean, there are Christians, and they won't even say anything.
yeah,
They just go to church. Hope nobody saw me go to church. Hope nobody saw me. I'm going to tell you something. Every single believer out there is obligated and expected by God to share the gospel with everyone they know.
take authority like Paul did in this passage. Like
You know,
stand up for yourself. Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's our job. We are supposed to share our faith with people. We're supposed to be open. We should be, I think a lot of the stuff that's going on in this country is because we have let it happen.
right. I blame
You
the
know,
church.
these
Yeah,
people, well, not just, I mean, yeah, the church, but just the American people in general. We have let this stuff happen. We have an influx of all these jihad Muslims in this nation that are trying to take over our nation is because we allowed them to be here. We allowed them to come in here and we allowed them to take root where they're at. And I believe as Christians, we need to be more bold in our faith. And we're drawing the line in the sand and we're telling everybody, look, this is the way. I did it the other day. I had, all these people on there talking about Muhammad's the way. No, Muhammad is not the way. Jesus Christ is the way. And every chance that I get to tell people that, I'm going to do it. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to declare Jesus Christ as Lord. And I'm going to do it every chance that I get. Why? Because I know what brought me out of mine. I think it's really interesting, Sean, that we are at odds with a religion who is set on murdering and forcing people to comply. Where Christianity says, hey, I love you. We're building people, but we're asking you to come on board with us because we love you. There's a difference.
mm-hmm,
If you don't know what the difference is between God and Satan and what's real and what's not, then you need to ask yourself, am I being forced to do this or am I being asked to do this? Muslims force, Christians ask. That's the difference. And I believe that we need to be more bold in our faith in declaring who the savior of this world is, to give people who have the mindset, hey, come on, we got a solution for that, And all the stuff that's going on in these communities is because we got to change the mindset. We have allowed ourselves, we taught our children dysfunction. We're dysfunctional and we're passing that on to the next generation who's going to pass it on. And I got news for you. It won't get better, people.
mm-hmm.
You can think all day long, oh, things are going to get better. No, they're not. They are not going to get better because sin is running rampant and unrepentant sin only gets worse. Ooh, I could preach that. That'd be a good message right there. Unrepentant sin only gets worse. Unrepentant sin that's unrepented for, has power to make things even worse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just focus on the spiritual aspect of this because I want to talk to common people about common topics and giving people common ways out. You know what I mean? And one of those ways is a mindset change. But we need to understand we're not at war with each other. I'm not at war with you. You're not at war with me. What are we doing here? We're allowing the situations to get us to turn against each other. And I love the scripture because it's so true, where it says a kingdom divided against itself shall fall. If I can get you haggling, focusing on all the stuff you don't have, being at odds with each other, trying to kill each other, I can just sit back and I can control everything because you're too busy losing control and giving me all the control that I need to control you. And I want to talk about ways that we can make things better in our communities. What type of things can we do to make things better in our communities? I fully realize it's probably not going to change anything, but it starts with one person. It starts with us. It starts with us saying we're not going to allow this mindset to be in our community and being willing to stand up to do something about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Sean? What kind of things do you think we could do?
I want to go further with the renewing your mind. Like, there's just certain stuff you have to unprogram from. There's just certain ways that you have been trained to operate and taught, right? But like, it's not life-giving. It doesn't bring you healing. It's not beneficial. It's not good for you. Like Paul even said it. Paul said, think about what's good, what's praiseworthy, what's noble, what's a good report. Like, these are things that should be on your mind. And Terry even said it, like, if junk comes into your mind and all you're thinking about is junk, what's your life going to look like? If negative thoughts are always coming through your head about things, what is your life going to look like? You can't have a renewed life, a transformed life, until you renew your mind. And the greatest way to renew your mind is with the Bible, right? So how does racism impact your community? It gets you thinking and operating contrary to how God wants you to think and operate, right? It gets you to be limited and put you in a box when God has called you to live outside that box and to live differently than everybody else. So like, Terry just asked me, what does that look like? What's that God alternative reality? That's what I'm gonna call it, right? So when you renew your mind, like that takes it's a daily thing. If you look at Romans 12, 1-2, it says, you have to continually renew your mind. There's so much stuff that we have to unlearn. But the question is, what are you putting into your mind? Like, I would argue, like, I don't know if Terry agree with this, but like, if you watch the news 24/7, that's all you watch. Like, the news is not even the news anymore compared to when Terry was younger. Like, the news is just opinionated now. Everybody giving their opinion, saying what they think, instead of reporting the daggum news, and then you come to a conclusion of what you want to think. No, they tell you what their thoughts are the whole time. And they're training to teach you how to think. And we tend to watch, and we tend to watch who we agree with, and we tend to follow who we agree with, right? So eventually, whatever they're thinking, whatever station you watch the most, if it's Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or ABC, right? Or CBDC, you get what I'm saying? Like, whatever news station you watch the most, I guarantee you have the same political thoughts and views as those people. So the question is, Terry, like, what does it look like if we just, this is hard to do, but what does it look like if you just meditated on the word day and night? And I know Terry did it before. What does it look like if you just spend time with God and allow his word to be the only consumption that comes into your mind? And not just with the word, but spending time with believers, going to church, listening to gospel music, and keep on going. There's a lot of ways to just renew your mind spiritually, right? So what is that? What would your mind turn into if that's all you did and you didn't consume junk? When I say junk, I mean like reality TV. I would just say anything on the TV, really. Like, I'm not saying be a monk or something like that, because that's hard to do, like, in today's time. But you can enjoy life. But I'm saying you have to be careful what books you read, what shows you watch, because whatever you watch, man, it's going to impact how you live. So how does racism impact your community? You're living it. I would argue most people are living it. Like, you're already divided. You're thinking everybody's against you. You're thinking, something's holding me down. That's a stronghold. And I want Terry, like, Terry, what is a stronghold? Because you would tear it up like.
I will tell you, I'm glad you asked. Well, it's a stronghold is a mindset or a life set or something that's ingrained in you that takes control of you. And I tell people this all the time, and this is something I'm learning in my own life, because I'm not on here trying to preach to you without preaching to myself. But one thing I'm really learning is surrender. It's surrender. It's letting go. It's surrendering. See, like I hate when somebody comes up to me and they say, I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. I get the struggle. I understand. But I've struggled myself and I still struggle. But the thing is, though, is we can't stay in that mentality and say, I'm struggling and then I'm going to continue to struggle. We need to understand we got to shake that off. And the greatest way to shake that off is to fall to your knees and say, God, what do I do?
Yeah.
I'm at the end of myself. I'm taking this mindset, this mentality. I'm taking, my feelings because, wow, hey, we could preach right here for the next 5 days about feelings and how feelings impact your life. I mean, we all know somebody that every time something goes wrong, we're like, oh my God, oh, and and they're just so emotional. They can't even stand up. They've fallen all over the ground and, they all caught up. And there's a time and a season for that. I'm not saying that's wrong. Please don't think that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is staying in the mindset of a victim, staying in the mindset of I'm hurt, staying in the mindset that somebody did this to me. And, people do things to each other all the time, but we cannot allow that to define our life. We can't allow that to define our mentality, and we got to get past the victimhood. We got to change the mindset. You know what? I forgive that person, even if they don't ever, repent to me or repent to God. It doesn't matter. I still forgive because, I got things going on. I got things I got to do. I got places I got to go, and shaking that stuff off, And, the other thing is too, it's just we as believers, we have the responsibility to come against that stuff. And, I understand, why people have issues with the Somalis right now. Somalis is a group of people. Not all of them are bad. Not all of them are good, and they want them to be deported for whatever reason because of all the theft that they've done. 88% of them is on food stamps and taking advantage of the system. They came over here to take advantage of a system. They're not contributing anything. Whatever that is, it's not for me to judge or decide. But you know what? In my mindset is, it's God has laws and the world has laws. God has laws that benefit us when we obey them. Society has laws that benefit us when we obey them. And that's just the way that it is. And you can choose. I put a post the other day and I said, 2 words that really, really, really get under my skin is entitlement. Entitlement. And, that someone is entitled to something that I don't have to, earn it. There's nothing. I mean, I'm entitled, man. When somebody walks into me and says I'm entitled, and then the second thing is defiant, to become defiant, to defy what's doing right, to defy it, to say, you know what, I know I'm dead in the wrong, but you know what, I'm not doing anything to change it. I'm doing it anyway. That's defiant. That's the 2 mindsets that I see in today's society. And I know there's probably more, but the 2 that stand out to me the most is defiance and entitlement. I can't stand either one of those things. And, I feel like if you want the money, go get it, go earn it, go get a job, do what you're supposed to do and do the right thing. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you nothing. If I give you something, cool, but I don't owe you anything. And for you to be so defiant when you get caught up in your stuff, from a political standpoint, we can see that there was a lot of fraud going on up there in Minneapolis and a lot of stuff going on with that whole entire community. That's not racism. That's facts. Okay. And we have 2 choices here. We can choose to hate the whole group of people because of the defiance and entitlement of a few, or we can hold those few accountable and deal with that way. You know what I'm saying? And it's just real easy with society throwing all the stuff at us to have this mentality that, we hate groups of people, and it's not allowing, it's having that mindset change. My prayer is going to be that we all, including all of us, that we all have a mindset change because the mindset's killing us. It's killing this country. It's dividing people. And racism in communities only creates more chaos and violence. That's the impact to your community by having racism. It impacts your whole entire community for chaos and insanity and madness. It's only going to make things worse. It doesn't make things better. To all of you that's racist out there and think that your world's going to be better because there's no black folks there, okay, let me know how that works for you. Yeah. Or for you that's in the black community that says your community is better without white people being there, okay, let me know how that works out for you.
Because it's not going to happen. Like, no matter how hard you try, it's a stupid battle to fight.
Yeah, it's a battle that we got no business fighting as Christians. That's for darn sure. Because we should be mature enough and educated enough to know that it's not flesh and blood we're dealing with. It's spiritual battles. And it's the spirits that we have to deal with. And I want to know, is anyone even watching this? Does anyone have a question or input they would like to add to this stream? John, what do you think that we could do? I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, and that, but mighty through God to pulling it down of stronghold. What's your take on that scripture? For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.
Yeah, the only way to conquer principalities, evil rulers, evil doers of this age is through God. Like, God's the only one that can do it. So, like, just find it, in the flesh, just find it our way. Relying on our own strength, even relying on our own communities. Like, it's not enough. Like, you have to rely on God. You have to go to God for it, right? Because, like, what is racism? Like, Terry asked a good question. Like, how does racism impact your community? How does racism impact your community specifically? Like, and I had to look up what racism is. It's not just one thing. It's a lot of stuff. Like, it's bigotry, intolerance, homophobia, like, you know what I mean? Fascism. So you get what I'm saying. Like, it's all those things. It's just a separation, elevating one group of people above others. So, like, how do you get through that, right? Because we all, honestly, if we're being honest, Terry, like, we're all racist in some kind of way. There's a group of people you discriminate against. There's a group of people you think that you're better than. Classism is racism. Like, like, to define people based on how much money you make. What do you do for a job? To judge people based on their job. I mean, that's going far, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there's certain mindsets that we have been taught. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, I want to tie off with what you're saying, because here's a key point. I don't like, I'll be honest with you. I don't have anything against a person personally, but I don't like the doctrine of the LGBTQ. And I don't like having to be forced to accept them in my life, or to accept them in my circle, so to speak. I'm being forced, I'm being coerced, I'm being told that I'm racist if I don't accept that behavior as being normal. It's not normal. It is against the Bible, it is against Christianity, and it is not normal. And you will never convince me that it's normal. However, if a person chooses to live that life and live that lifestyle, that's entirely up to them. Am I going to treat you any different when I meet you? No. Am I going to treat you bad? No. Am I going to do anything to make you feel that you are less than me? No. However, I don't accept that lifestyle or that behavior. I don't want it forced on me to be accepting. I don't want it forced on me that you try to change my mindset that it's normal, because it's not. It's an abomination in the Bible. It is an abomination. And any preacher that says it is not is a liar. It is an abomination. The lifestyle is an abomination. I don't want to be a part of it, but I'm not going to condemn you because you are. I'm going to love you anyway. I'm going to accept you anyway, but I'm not going to allow you to make me accept your lifestyle as being normal or acceptable. That's the balance.
Yeah. And that's
biblical. The balance.
Yeah.
That is the balance. I'm commanded to love you. I'm commanded to put the word out to you, but I am not commanded to accept you as being part of my circle and part of you making me think that this thing is normal, because it's not.
Yeah.
And I will never, I'm glad I don't have any kids, because if I did and they were in these schools that were being indoctrinated by these people, I would do just like that biker dad. I'd be walking right back in that school, taking my kid out and bringing them home and educating them at home. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to allow any of my children. And you know what's really sad about this is the fact that normal governing people have sold out to the lie that this is acceptable and should be indoctrinated to our children. That is absolutely horrendously crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, and I know there's a lot of people out there they're feeling what I'm saying right now. But here's where the balance comes in. How do we respond to that? I don't hate the whole group of people. I don't hate liberals. I don't hate them. I just don't accept them as to being normal for me. Not normal for me. And that's the great thing about living in the United States. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to accept you. Mm-hmm. But I'm commanded to love you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I think the balance is, Sean. We can disagree with a group of people without hating that group of people.
Right.
Because, you know, I believe that all that's a mental illness. I believe people are just mentally ill. You know, I was talking to, I don't know, somebody the other day. I said, man, most everybody I talk to has got some kind of mental illness. I mean, where's all the normal people? Everybody got a mental illness. Heck, I probably got a few of my own, but you know what? I try to live normal. I obey the law. I pay my taxes. I hold down a job. You know, I do all the things that people that normal people are supposed to do. I take care of my family. I take care of my house. I like my yard to look good. Mm-hmm. You know, I like to wear, you know, I like to look presentable. I like good hygiene, you know, all the normal things that people do, but don't think that I'm going to accept this as being a normal for me. It's not. Yeah. And you know what? Here's another balance. I'm commanded to preach a gospel to you, but I'm not commanded for you to accept it. Whether or not you accept the gospel is entirely up to you. But I'm commanded to tell you about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Other religions want to force it down your throat and say you will comply or you will die. You know, I mean, I'm commanded to preach the gospel, but I'm not commanded to make you receive it. You know, and that's entirely up to you. And with that being said, is if you want to live all like that, if you want to live all foul, if you want to live angry all the time, if you want to hate on everybody all the time, you don't want to work, you don't want to contribute, that's entirely up to you, because this is a free nation. But it doesn't mean that I got to accept it. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to say it's okay, because it's not. I don't accept it, and it's not okay. Okay? But that's the way I think. But does that make me hate you? No. Yeah. No. Actually, I actually pity you because you know you could actually have a way better life and be a whole lot happier if you just repent.
Mm-hmm. And we all got to repent. Like Terry, you speaking straight facts. That's the next verse. Like it's actually all that chapter. That's why I want to do a whole Bible study on it, because it's going to pertain to everything we're talking about. Like just 2 Corinthians 10. Like Paul said, we take every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Like, does everybody do that? No. Like Terry even said it. Like he said, just because you disagree with me doesn't mean I'm going to stop loving you. Like just because you can't agree with each other 100% doesn't mean I'm going to stop, you know, treating you how Christ would. Right. And a lot of people do that. Like, you know, just because we have an argument, just because there's a difference of claims that we're claiming. Like everybody claims different things. And we're being honest, calling an ace and a spade. Black people claim things that white people don't, and vice versa. And if we talk about Chinese people, they do the same thing. China represents and claims different things than Americans. But whose claim matters most? God's or the world's? And so Paul's saying in this text, like, who are you claiming? Who is your allegiance to? And the people in Corinth, their allegiance was to the world. The people who infiltrated the church, trying to tell the other Corinthians, we shouldn't be working with Paul. Paul shouldn't be the head of a church. And Paul, and they said the reason why, another reason, was because Paul lives in the flesh. He's not perfect. And Paul said later on in this chapter, he said, obviously I live in the flesh. He said that was stupid to say because you live in the flesh too. And that's the text. You put on one pants, you put on your pants one leg at a time, just like everybody else. You poop just like everybody else. Black people, white people, Asian people, Indian people, it don't matter. There's stupid people in every race. There are violent people in every race. There's just people in every race that's intelligent. No race is better than the other. We're all the human race. And what's crazy is, like, I'm not even gonna go there, but I want to talk about this verse because that's what Terry said. Like, we demolish every argument, every opinion, every pretension. That's what pretension means. That sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And the question is, what's the knowledge of God? A lot of people think their thoughts are the knowledge of God. A lot of people think what they believe is the knowledge of God. A lot of people think the American way is the knowledge of God. It's not. Like it's at the end of the day, it's of the world. The media is of the world. And the question is, what happens when you take those thoughts, those beliefs, and you put it and you line it up with what God says? How does it stand in? Because everything that goes through that fire, if it ain't of gold and of God's standard, it's going to wither away. It's going to crumble away. So only what's done for Christ is what's going to last. So like this is how we got to live. Like there's a certain type of mindset we got to have, and if we're being honest, we get like I think they said statistically like 6,000 to 10,000 thoughts a day. Every human being gets that many thoughts that come into their head. So like here goes a question: like how many thoughts that come into your head are from God and from the devil? And I would argue the majority of them are from the devil. And you got to learn how to take captive. So that means hold hostage. Treat as an enemy of the state in your mind, like these thoughts. That's a huge way to live. So if you think you're fat and ugly, that's something you need to hold captive. Because what did the Bible say? Hold it up against the knowledge of God. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. When somebody say you look like a monkey, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. There's some stuff you got to hold captive, right? America. This is bad to say it, but like America, everything for America. No, everything for God. Like say like what are we talking about? So there's certain ways that we live, and we need to hold captive how we're living to make sure we're doing things the right way, because we want to make sure we can stand during the judgment when it's time for us to be judged. And Terry, I don't know if you saw this comment, but like yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But like, guys, like everybody sins. Nobody's perfect. And that's the text. That's what Paul's talking about.
You get stuck on me? Yeah.
Wait, sir.
I thought you got stuck for a second. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so all of us are sinners and stuff like that. So all of us need to humble ourselves. All of us need to surrender. All of us need to bow down to the King. So like I think about like Matthew 16:24, Jesus said, if anyone would want to come after me, you must first deny yourself. So deny anything that you think that you believe and hold value to. You must hate your mother, your father, your job. You must hate your life to follow me. So you got to deny yourself, then take up your cross, then follow me. Everybody has a cross. Everybody cross look different. And Paul and Terry even said it. There's a what you call it, the black struggle. It wasn't the black struggle.
It's called black fatigue.
Black fatigue. All right. So like some people everybody to some extent is going through black fatigue, but I want to talk about for black people. Like black people are struggling. There's something called the black struggle. And we all black people know what that is. So we gotta deny ourselves, right? Take up the cross. That's the cross to take up. Then we can follow Jesus. So there's certain thoughts that we have been programmed to believe. You're 3/5 of a person, right? Just because it happened back then don't mean it's not something that we haven't been taught. We have to conduct ourselves a certain way to make it in this world. We have to act a certain way to be liked, to not be shot. And sometimes you still get shot. So it's just certain. You see what I'm saying? There's life limiting beliefs that's harming if we keep on believing them. And it could be truth in this reality. I'm not saying it's not a truth in this reality because we've been taught it. It's part of the system. But to break the system, we got to change the mindset. We got to renew our mind. And that's what everybody. And the question is, Terry, this is a good question. It'd be a good video to do. Like, do white people need to renew their minds? Do Chinese people need to renew their minds when it comes to how they perceive black people or how they perceive Indian people? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's so ingrained. Racism, like, how does it affect your community? It's affecting our community in a multitude of ways, not just one way. And it's sometimes it's even hidden, and sometimes you don't even know it's there. And it's not until you deny yourself, like, take captive every thought, examine yourself. Not everybody does that. Everybody want to examine everybody else. Everybody want to judge everybody else. When are you going to judge yourself? When are you going to examine yourself? And the hardest thing to do is to recognize what you need to work on. And to come to that realization, I need to work on some things, right? Nobody wants to do that, but that's what a Christian is called to do. And Paul even said in this text, Paul was like, man, y'all talking about me. It's true, but like, I'm still an apostle. That doesn't take away my apostleship. Like, I'm more better than you guys if you're going to do, really judge. Like, but he wasn't going to do that, because I ain't going to fight wars like y'all fight,
Yeah.
So,
I want to respond to Wendy up at the top there.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a good friend of mine. How you doing, Wendy? I'm glad you're watching us today. But you're right, Wendy. I mean, you're 100% right. She said, I discriminate against actions, not race. She said, we dislike the sin, not the people. God can free anyone from those spirits. That's really good stuff right there. But here's the balance even on that, because even with that right there, I discriminate against actions and not race. Listen to me. If we see a certain action from a certain race all the time, we tend to identify that race with those actions. So with that being said, Sean, did you hear what I said? I said, we tend to relate to that group of people based on those actions that we see continuously from that group. Now, the problem with that is we need to identify the behaviors and not the people so much. We need to identify the way out of those actions and how to deal with that against how we see I guess what I'm trying to say is we need to deal with the actions of the people and not necessarily discriminate against the people because of the actions. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like knowing that a certain group of people has this type of action. Now, what can we do to change that? I don't know, man. We got so much generational stuff going on, and we're seeing stuff in people today that generations ago would never happen. But why? It's because of unrepented sin. Unrepented sin is continually destroying genealogies of people. Unrepented sin. Are you passing on unrepented sin to your children? Is your children passing that on to their children? And if you think that it gets weaker with time, it doesn't. It gets worse with time. It only gets worse, not better. Oh, well, 5 years from now, we'll never remember this. Oh, you'll remember it. And then you'll remember what's happened since then, too. But I like what Wendy said. She said, I discriminate against actions, not race. And I think I might change that word discriminate to something different. I might say, I don't like the behavior of certain people, and therefore, I think if we're all real, we can just be real when we say we identify this behavior with this group of people.
Yeah,
we do,
and that's a stronghold. Because it's not always true, but
you can't hold it against every single person in the group.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good people in that group.
Right.
That you're not allowing yourself to connect with because you're so caught up in the actions.
And that's how you miss experiencing God right there.
But in the church setting, though, it's okay to dislike the actions of people and or the sin of the people. It's okay. And I'm talking about the LGBTQ. I don't like what they do. I don't like the actions. But does it make me hate the group of people? No. Does it make me cautious of that group of people? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's a balance to all this stuff, and it's how we process stuff. Sean, I think a lot of the problem with a lot of people is we don't process stuff right.
Yeah.
I don't think we process trauma. I don't think we process things right, And when you don't process stuff correctly, it impacts your life. It impacts your actions. It impacts how you do business with people and how you treat people.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, she said when she said we dislike the sin, not the people. Like we're so focusing on the LGBTQ, like the public sins. But some people don't like people. Some people don't respect Christians because there's cheaters in Christianity. There's rapists in Christianity, child molesters in Christianity. So like a sin's a sin, right? Like so but we like to say we don't like this type of sin, right? But if it's your sin, you want to justify it. But there's groups of people that don't justify your sin. They discriminate against you just as harshly, if not worse, than what you're discriminated against, with those type of people,
I like
right?
it. Yep.
So like, yeah, free. We all need to be free from different spirits, and that's a spiritual stronghold. It's spiritual. There's something spiritual behind it, like that hate, that discrimination, like like what are we talking about, right? Just focus on yourself. That's life. Like life, you're going to be judged based on your race with God. Yeah, we're supposed to speak for Christ and stuff like that. But have you got your household together? Like, have you got your relationship with God together? That's what you're going to be judged for. So we so quick to talk about everybody else. Talk about yourself with God, because you just as jacked up. So yeah, I want to say that too. But and that goes with the next verse to end the chapter. That part of the passage we were talking about.
Yeah.
If you're ready to punish every act of disobedience once your obedience is complete, you won't receive the battle through these spiritual strongholds until you obey God, until you go to God for yourself and you take care of what you need to take care of with Him. Then you can punish and demolish every stronghold, every act of disobedience, and win arguments if you're even arguing, right? But it's what are we talking about? Arguing, I already said that earlier. Like you don't even waste time talking like that.
Have you ever heard of the term that love has a boot?
Yeah.
Love has a boot.
Yeah.
Love has a boot, man. And sometimes a boot kick you in your butt, make you hurt. Sometimes, sometimes good just to have a boot on.
Yeah. Right.
but yeah, love has a boot. So you need to understand that, going to people in love, man, going to people and saying, hey, I see you struggling. What can I do to help you? What can I do to help make you better? What can I do to make your life better?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, there's a whole balance to this whole thing. It's all about mentality. It's all about how you think, how you see things. She said, I have enjoyed listening to y'all. I have time to jump off here. You guys keep on preaching the word. Thank you, Wendy. We love you. God bless you. Thank you for your input. Gary Frierson, I see you're watching us. Do you have any insight to give us tonight on this? And what's your thoughts on what we're talking about? We'd love to hear what you think. If you can hear me and you're still tuned in with us, feel free to just type in your question at the bottom there. And we'd love to have an opportunity to be able to answer that for you. But yeah, I mean, we're starting to see more and more of this mentality. Okay. Yeah. So we're starting to see more of this mentality in this world. And, the other thing I talked about was entitlement. And this again just feeds that spirit of racism, because we see groups of people that are different than we are, that have these entitlement issues, that think that they should have all of our resources that we've worked hard to build. You come into our country, you're a guest here, but yet you want to sit there and try to take and judge me as a white person and him as a black person, thinking that because we don't sympathize with you, that we're racist. No, we're not racist. We don't accept people coming in here from other countries that don't bring something to the table, trying to take what's on the table away from us. So if you're experiencing any kind of animosity in that sense, now you know why. All sin is the same to me, Carrie. You're right. You're absolutely right. All sin is the same. There's no sin greater than another. You're absolutely right on that. But the deal is sin, and unrepented sin becomes worse. And we need to understand that change doesn't happen with us trying to change everybody else. Exactly. I was just fixing to say that, Carrie. How to look yourself in the mirror, no one else. Self-hate elevates hate. You're right about that. And I was just fixing to say that when you made that comment. You're right. It absolutely does. And we have to look at ourselves because all the dynamics that's going on in the world today. I believe if we would self-reflect, we would respond different to other people, and that in turn will change the world. What do you think, Sean? You got any more input? Or are you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm ready to wrap this up. I ain't gonna lie, we had time. I want to be respectful.
Yep. Okay.
If you got anything? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll end the video.
No, I just want to just say that we are trying to relaunch some of our podcasts. If you have any kind of suggestions on things you'd like to see here, please private message us. Let us know what you would like to see. And I like what you're saying there, Carrie. You got some really good wisdom. I'd love to have you be able to maybe chime in with us sometime. But yeah, I believe it's a mindset. I believe that we need to pray against that mindset. I believe we need to get more in sync with what Jesus wants to do on this earth and call him by name, because God has a name. God has a name. We can, there's all kinds of gods, false gods, whatever in this world. And we're so busy, I want to call his name. And the one who is the savior of the world is Jesus the Christ. He came to save the world from all sin. If you don't know him, I would encourage you to find him today and to pray and seek his face and be a part of the change this world needs. God bless all of you from Vessels of Victory Ministry. And remember, Jesus is Lord, and his victory is our victory all the time. God bless you.
God bless everybody. We'll see you later. Make sure to send us a DM on our Facebook pages. You'll see the names. If you got any questions for videos you want us to do, we'll do a video on the question that you asked. All right. Talk to you guys later. Peace.